The author Joseph Campbell is a well-known mythologist, and he said that the individual has to find an aspect of myth that relates to their life, and that a myth should serve four main functions: the mystical function, the cosmological function, the sociological function, and the pedagogical function. Hope I'm saying that right. The first is the mystical function, and that is basically what inspires an individual, like with a sense of awe, gratitude in relation to the mysteries of the universe. It's like the awe of nature, looking up at the stars, wondering what's out there, wondering how we all came to be. To quote Joseph Campbell himself, he says, the first function must be to open the mind of everybody in the society to that mystery dimension that cannot be analyzed, cannot be talked about, but can only be experienced as out there and in here at once. Next is the cosmological function, which is the image of the universe that links local knowledge and individual experience to that mystical dimension, the first function. And to explain that a little bit better, it's really what approach science takes. They want to find out, get to the bottom of things. So it's taking that mystical part of the universe that makes people just wonder and want to figure out. And the cosmological function is, how are we actually going to figure it out? It's like in quantum mechanics when they're trying to find the smallest piece of matter, but that still doesn't really answer the question, like where it all came from. But that cosmological function is that pursuit of knowledge to try to figure it out. To quote Joseph Campbell again, he says, you strike a match, but what's fire? You can tell me about oxidation, but that doesn't tell me a thing. This is a really important function to keep in mind when reading old mythology, because these stories try to educate on basically the science of the time. And Campbell says that there is no conflict between science and myths, but there is a conflict between 5,000 years ago science versus current day science. Those do conflict. So this function is really important to consider because we have to understand that these stories are just a window back in time, that we can take a lot of the meaning and the nurturing parts of the stories, but they don't show a complete picture for how things should be approached in modern times. Next is the sociological function. The sociological function validates, supports, and imprints the individual with the norms of that society or certain social orders or religious orders. You can have myths that support all sorts of beliefs for how the world should be. And this is the one that Joseph Campbell thinks has kind of taken over our society, that we don't really include the mystical, wonderful parts of the universe, and it's just a over prescription of laws. But we'll get into that a little bit later. The last and final fourth function is the pedagogical function. And if you were like me, I had to look up what pedagogical means. A pedagogue is basically a teacher. So the pedagogical function is the function that teaches you something for how to live your life, for how to be human. The pedagogical function serves to guide each individual through the stages of life within the context of that culture and in that moment in time. And when you get into mythology, you really see the purpose that each of these stories has, and they are there to teach you how to go through the various phases of life. And some cultures have initiation rituals for when you reach a certain age or when you have a certain milestone in your life. And there are myths that support as a kid is entering adulthood or an adult is entering parenthood or the other many stages of life and then initiations that we go through along the way. And Joseph Campbell says that an important part of this aspect and this function is that these myths should teach you how to human basically under any circumstances. So no matter the turbulence of life that is going on, that these myths can still benefit you and teach you how to cope, how to live, why it matters, and under any circumstance to still get the benefit from these stories. So, just to recap, one, the myth needs to tell you about the mystical, magical, mystery dimension of the universe. Two, by using some kind of knowledge that your society has uncovered about the magical parts of the universe. And three, to support that society and keep that society going. Four, and to teach you, the individual, how to move through the stages of life, how to cope, how to exist under any circumstances.